got to post it. Let's see real good, Lord.
It's truly a blessing to be in church with you. It's a blessing.
Yes, it is, bro.
To be in a church capacity, around with the Spirit. Maybe we can feel, touch it, it touch us. We may not recognize it all the time, but we, or what age it comes to us in. We want to get that peace to feel. We know it's grace.
That's right, brother.
It's a blessing to know that the plan of salvation is not regulated by man, but regulated by the Almighty.
That's right. That's it.
Every man has a fair chance at it.
Yeah.
It's within reach of every person.
Amen.
Yes. It's there. And your condition is not a way that you can't take on with. He is a forgiver of sin. And if it was any of us perfect, I don't know what it would be yet. But here is the thing about it. It's so natural that we can have the desire to serve the living God and call. Something that we can understand. President brought to mind when he was preaching about our Savior. He was probably he said there was going to be a fountain.
Yeah. Yeah.
The house of David. This woman, when here was the fountain. That's the time when the first notes did flowing. That fountain was flowing then, and it's flowing today.
Right.
Think about it when it all comes down. It's not our natural actions. We're not judged by how fast we can run, or how long we can stand, or maybe it may be just we can hold a finger out.
Well, I said, yeah.
We can understand how important our life is.
Yeah. Amen.
We understand when we can look down the most desire of our heart. But like when the one with God, what that woman would. It was prophesied that there was going to be a fountain open to the house of David for sin and uncleanness.
That's right.
He said there's going to be a fountain open. Now we can just look at it, we're going to see that fountain sitting there, standing by the road. He was the God. Christ himself was that fountain.
Yeah.
That was going to be open for sin and uncleanness to the house of David. We're back under the law. It's back to David. It comes down to the world. It's not a natural thing. The spiritual thing, the spiritual beings of God that we live from day to day. We can understand. We think the church. Sometimes we don't understand the church building. We don't understand the why. But to know it's hard to describe a church, and we want to kind of think maybe that we can see the walls of it, and this would be it. Is the church. But when we look at it, we can see something that God himself set forth, and the building, the building that you see here, the average man might look, and what do they see? They just see a building. But there's something special. That's special in a church of the living God, the Spirit. The Spirit, and it does not stay in one place. Nobody has that. The Spirit may be here, and it may be down in another place, and over in another place, and wherever. But it's not the Brush Creek Church. It's not the natural. We could look down. There's a church house down the road. My daughter, we talked about it's for sale down Genoa there. Church house for sale. And I told her that was the same. That was just a building. That was just a block. That's not a church house for sale. That's a building for sale. There's nothing special about that building at 10 years. There's nothing special about this building that we're looking at here. But without the Spirit of God in it. When you talk about it's not because when you look at on the day of Pentecost, it's 50 days after Christ was crucified. After he got up, we can see that the Spirit, we can see there's maybe 3,000 people in a building. Yeah. Peter was there. nothing to going on. Here was the building. But there's one thing about it. When the Spirit, we're going to think about the Spirit. It come down and is resting on the people. They had the building there all the time.
Yeah.
They had a fine building, big, but must have been a big one to hold all them people.
Yeah.
But then it says, John, first of all, God, when John was put on this Isle of Patmos, when they put him there for prison, put him in prison, when God is dealing with him and give him he could see the vision. And so we're going to see these, here they was in this building, all of the people, and it looked like that there's something special happened this day. We're going to see the Spirit. As cloven in tongues of fire. There's John. First of all, when they put John on this island, the king put him there for punishment. Put him on the Isle of Patmos. And the bar, it didn't have bars, it had a sea to keep him. He was a prisoner just by the sea keeping him in. But here was the thing about the Spirit. That he looked and see. John was able to see things that other people could not see. But he said it looked like cloven tongues of fire come down from God out of heaven. He's seen the Spirit. These people in here, they all 3,000 people, they were just people in there until the Spirit came down that day, seen come down. And did you know that it was closed up and come down, and all 3,000 of them were saved? And that the Spirit, without the Spirit, things are dead. Without the Spirit, that building down the road is dead. Without a block of wood is dead. But with the Spirit of God in their life, and that's what the church is. And it's not in just one place, and it's not, he's not contained, he's here this evening. His Spirit is wherever today that he's everywhere. He's everywhere. It's so great that we don't, nobody got a corner of it.
That's right.
And when we can just see that, and we talk about that, when John said, the thing about it, this is a spiritual thing we have. That we can't see it, we can't touch it, we can't. But the Brush Creek Church, we could say that if all the Christians go out somewhere, go out of here, this building is nothing. If we go somewhere else, and as long as we worship, God is with us in the presence. So that's right. And nobody's got a corner up the road or down the road, but when we can just see how important this is, and when we look and see what John, when John was put on that island as a prisoner, he was put in that prison.
That's right.
We're talking about our John, and God told him to write all of it. He wrote to write the things that are, and the things that have been, and the things that shall be.
Yeah.
And John looked at all, and he's seen it all. And did you know something? He's seen listen, he's seen the church. He was the one that, when he seen that it's cloven tongues of fire, he could see the Spirit. We couldn't see it. The thing about it, when we see the thing that was able to come down from God out of heaven, when it talks about what he's going to be upon this earth, he even described it. He described it. I'm going to read you something here. The things that John's seen, he's seen this come down by the, he said, and I saw, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth. The first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no more sea. He said there was, he's describing something now. He said there was no more sea. There's only one thing that kept him captivity, and that was the water. But he was in prison. So John looked at the view, and there was nothing to. His spirit was free. That no bars didn't hold him, and no longer was this to hold him in there. Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them, and their God. And he said, here's John what he's seen. And let's talk about what we're seeing. and I will show thee the bride, the Lamb's bride.
Yeah.
Talking about the Spirit now. We're getting close to it here. And he carried me away in the Spirit to a great high mountain and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God. John was able to see this, nobody else could see it, because he could see the church of the living God. He was going to see it descending. And that was, that on the day of Pentecost, he seen it all descending. He's seen it come down with cloven tongues of fire. The people in there just rejoiced that there was 3,000 souls saved that day. It must have been a real connection. Mm. But now here when we're talking about something very great, and he talked about this thing that he's seen coming down. This city seen come down. And the walls of that city had 12 foundations. 12 foundations. And what was those foundations? And on the name for the 12 apostles. So does that sound like something that, other than the Spirit? Because to have, it's resting on the 12 apostles. And that's the church of the living God. And what he's seen, he was seeing the Spirit. Some people think maybe he was seeing a new heaven or something. Yeah, he was seeing this the heaven and the promise that was promises coming down to us. The name of the 12 apostles is of the foundation. And he said, and there was a Lamb talking about how, and the nations, yeah, okay. Now, when he's seen this new place, and the name of it, and the Spirit and the bride says, "Come, and let him that heareth say, Come, and let him that is athirst come, and whosoever will take care of water." But when we can see that, and then he said he took him on a big high mountain, yeah, and showed him this new Jerusalem coming down from God out of heaven. And the way it's described, a lot of things, talking about something, a new heaven. And he even described how it looked. But what John was looking at was the church of the living God. And it's described as heaven. If it's on, some of these days, when you get time, I want you to read the 21st chapter of Revelation and the 22nd. And read it all, and when we can see it. But rest the church, if we just remember, what is the church resting on? It's the apostles and the prophets. The 12. Right. He left the 12 in charge. That's the thing, and they're the one it's arresting them, and it's a miracle thing we have. Yes. And even though even in the walls of that city had 12 foundations now. Here, this is it, 12 foundations. And in them the names that was the 12 apostles of the Lamb. So this whole thing rests on the 12 foundations. The church of the living God rests on the apostles and the prophets, because there's God there. And it says, look here, this is the point that we're getting at. And the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day and night. This is the church of the living God.
That's right.
The heaven's gates are closed, brother. You just can't get in anytime you want to. But the gates of that city that John saw coming down, he said, the gates shall not be shut at all. And there shall be no night in it. And thou shalt in no wise enter anything that defileth, and whatsoever work abomination or make a lie, but he which is written in the land of the book of the life. Just anything you won't do.
That's right.
We got this, when we got this. And he said, I saw no temple therein, and in the Lord Almighty, and the Lamb, and the temple of this city had no need of a sun, neither of the moon. This church.
Yeah.
Shining it, for the glory of God did lighten, and the Lamb is the light thereof.
Yeah, think about it.
And a real description of the church.
Yeah.
And when somebody, we see it here, it's operating here, in another place, people are regulated by, when we how the control, what I'm trying to get at, is controlled by God. When we can understand it, and we even think that when it talks about, it even talked about, I would have had myself in order, I was just out here, but to let you know that the important part, and we'll think that if we think that Revelation was the Revelations, and how this is how John described this, when it come down, he said there was no more prison bar, because it had all been free, was the thing he said. And if we look at this, we'll think that surely that it's describing what he seen to come to heaven. He was looking at heaven. No, he was looking at the church, because he said, you know, he said that the gates shall not be shut by day and night. No one can always, the gates are always open. And he said, and then he described it that way that, and with this built, there was no more sea there, because there wasn't nothing to keep anybody in prison. This is sort of out of the way for you. I need for you to understand this scripture. And I haven't made it very plain, but when it said in Brad, and what was coming, John seen coming down, he said, you see the bride, it's not in heaven, we have no idea what's coming down from God out of heaven. There was a bride going for her husband. We're going to see that was what he seen come down, the Spirit, because after all, God was on the day of Pentecost. We just seen the cloven tongues of fire, but John seen the church of the living God down on the day of Pentecost, because he went away to prepare a place for us so we could go one of these days of heaven. But this is the gates is opened up, and right now when we talk about the church of the living God, it's the perfection that lives. There's no fault to it anywhere. The church of the living God, wherever it's at, the beauty, and when he talks about that, it's not never are the gates shut. He's talking about the doors are open 24 hours a day, and it's describing the church, and we try to make something great out of it, and things that told us about how, you know what, we were thinking, well, this is talking about in heaven. No, he said, he took me on, right here, he said, took me on a big high mountain and showed me the church coming down, the Spirit, in other words, coming down from God out of heaven. And that's where it's at today. This Spirit come down from God out of heaven. And it wasn't built there and went up that way, because it came down, because he said he'd go away. I'll go away and prepare a place for you, all right? We think that's the eternal place that he prepared. He prepared a place that he sent down first to the people upon this earth, and the bride of the Lamb's wife. And this is what the church is, according to this, right here. Bride is what the church preparing for Jesus Christ. He already prepared, and that's where we're at. We're born again Christians, and so therefore, the most important part of our life is to say that if anybody got control back with the building out and control of what this is the church. That's the church. And over here is the church. Wherever the Spirit of God is, that's where it is.
That's
Where
right.
is it? Listen, we're too bad to think. Now, if we go out here, if we're out there, this building is nothing without the Spirit of God. And the Spirit will not dwell where there's nobody. And the Spirit will dwell where there's nobody, where there's people of worshiping Him. And then listen, are they perfect? Are they perfect? Are they worshiping Him in perfection? No, sir, that we're not perfect, because we don't know that much about it. You know what? Because we need to stand before Him so small. Listen, there's people think that they're looking eye level with God, and they know. We know that we're the lowest disgust, that we need to enjoy the thing about it, and to know. And it's teaching us that all this, that people does the interpretation, if they come out, they say all that we're going to have this prepared, even tell you, we're going to have a big war. We may have a big war, but not with God. Not with God. Not listen, because let me tell you the fact. I know a person in the Lord he can just say one word, and they can't even breathe.
That's right. That's right.
So the misinterpretation, the battle we had, you get stirring. When John told, when John told us to put on he tells us to put on the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, and having our loins girded, not with truth, and have the preparation with a feet shod with the preparation of the gospel, with the sword of the Spirit. Listen, that was, you know what was a fight? We're fighting. That's the fight sin with, and that's exactly what. But it's not, and they'll on the television you see that we're looking for a big battle to happen here in the world. Listen, and they know that with God on your side, there ain't nobody to win. Don't never think that, oh, listen, what's going to happen, the battle is going to happen one of these days. The battle has been destroyed. It's been going on. It's been going on ever since the crucified Jesus Christ. And he said, I go away to prepare. Listen, you know what? He said, I go away to prepare a place for you. Where I am, there you may be also. And that's what we have. And we've got it all on our side. There's no use to listen and thinking, well, but when it boils down to it, it's that part that's working in the heart of every individual here. You don't have to have a whole lot of people, but it's better when you have two together. But did you know he'll work with one couple like that? And that's spirit in our life. When things ain't going very good for a couple, when things that you can't understand, how did this happen? But there's a brighter side. There's a song about the brighter side somewhere. There's out here, there's a bright side. And he's fixed it for us. Did you know that we ought to be jumping out of our seats and shouting? Because he's fixed the way for it. And he's coming back to get the church one of these days. And we're going to go above all of this. And the thing about it, being a Christian, it's all right to have it, but the Christians, if you lay down in the bed at night, sleep, and something go a little wrong, it's like a little boy said, boy, when you mash your finger, what do you say? But here's the thing about it. When things are going a little bit wrong in our life, the thing about it is being about it, because the Spirit of God is to take care of all of us. And does he tell anything about you being perfection? Does he talk about perfection? No, the perfection is but trust in Jesus Christ. All of our mistakes and all of that, because he made us, he knows it. And listen, when you talk of that, drinking from that fountain that never runs dry, that woman down at the well, when he